What is up? Welcome back. 2023-2024 NBA season previews. I caught Jiarmani moving his head a little bit.
Yes.
Um, we're back, man. NBA season
Yeah.
is almost here. Today we'll be looking at the Sacramento Kings. Light the beam, baby. Light the beam. How's it
Yes.
going, Jiarmani?
Matt, I'm having a grand old time. But just this time of year is always so fun for basketball fans. You got opening night on Tuesday, but my Celtics don't play till Wednesday, unfortunately. But no, but yeah, like Sacramento, they're coming off a really good season. Obviously not an ideal way to for them their season to end, but
Yeah.
I mean, obviously going out to Golden State and everything like that. Like I can't look at that as a bad season, like
No.
in any sense of the word, because De'Aaron Fox, he proved himself to be one of the better guards in the NBA. You got Sabonis being a key contributor, and a lot of the young guys and the role players over there. Like Sacramento is building something over there. So I don't see another 20 plus year or nearly 20-year playoff drought coming for the Kings. Light the beam is going to be something we're going to be very accustomed to.
Do we know if they're lighting the beam again this year? I actually
You would
don't
think
know. They can't answer that question.
you would think that they would. I don't think that's like a one and done thing. Like I feel like that adds to like a team's identity a little
Yeah.
bit and just a little bit more personality. It's like stuff like that in the NBA that makes the NBA fun, just like how I enjoy baseball and stuff like that with
Yeah.
guys like going over the top when it comes to celebrations and stuff like that, or like the dugout celebrations when guys would
Mhm.
hit homers. You got but yeah, I feel like every team should have their own kind of personality to make them stand out, and like it's fun for the fans too, and the fact that like you can see it, say like you're driving on the highway, you look at the Kings Arena and you just see the beam, like, oh,
Yeah.
like it's that kind of stuff that I enjoy. So I wish more teams would do that.
When I was in Sacramento, I went to the first and second round, or I mean, it's not technically like the first round. They call it the second round, but the second round and then the third round of the NCAA tournament, they had that section in Sacramento, and so I went to those games with my dad. And even though it was college, they lit the beam after every game, which was cool.
That's
And
awesome.
so like it was just like, ooh, the beam, like, yeah, it's not a Kings game, but it's still cool that they lit it after uh the day or the night was over.
No, absolutely.
Um but on that's just a side note.
Yeah.
But Kings 48 and 34. I don't think many people expected them to be that good last year. Just given their history. And I mean, first full year of Domantas Sabonis, they were the third seed in the West. They lost in 7 games to the Warriors, uh, including a 50 ball from Steph in Game 7 with like 7 threes, something like that. Uh, they were the number 1 offense. They were number 24 in defense. I was surprised when I was doing research before this. They were 12th in pace. I thought it would have been like they were like a top 5 team,
Yeah.
just given how. But nevertheless, what was your kind of takeaway of last season, and then how do you think they improved themselves this offseason?
I would say that the takeaway from last season is that they needed to up the defense. Like just hearing
Yeah,
that you said they were like just because you're a top of the line offense, and in fact, actually no, they were historically great in terms
yeah,
of the just like as an offensive team, but just on defense, like they really like they have like young guys that can like the effort can be there, but I feel like they need to get a couple of like really like guys to step up on that end of the floor, and somebody I feel like that would be like a breakout candidate because we saw it in the postseason. Like got Keegan Murray, like that guy
mhm,
seems like he's gonna be kind of like that glue guy for him. He's lanky, he can shoot the ball, and I'm pretty sure like because I haven't watched a lot of Kings. I'm not gonna lie, my brother, he's more of a Kings fan than I am, obviously, but obviously like that's like the biggest that's just the biggest issue I would see with that
yeah,
is just how bad the team would be uh defensively, because Sabonis, he's a great player, but obviously you don't really look at him in terms of his defense like that. More of an
yeah,
offensive minded guy. De'Aaron Fox, he produces so much on the offensive end. I can't I can't ask of him to be anything more than what he is on defensive. He's giving me so much offensively. So it's
right,
around the other guys, like the Kevin Herters and some of these other guys that need to step up on that end of the floor and make this team even a top half of the league defensively to make sure like they start building to try to get over that hump. But yeah, I definitely think from last season, like I don't think they're gonna have another historically great season like as that team had in general. But also I don't think it's going to be a huge fall off. But really, it's just the defensive side because you can put up 130 points. They put up 170 versus the Clippers in that crazy game last year.
Yeah, I remember that. I watched like the second half of that game live.
It's like you watch 2 full games anyway, but then you can put up 170, but if you've given up 171 on the other end of the floor, like how you gonna like it's not gonna be sustainable in the playoffs, especially when the pace is slowed down and guys are really gonna start anchoring in to try to make sure you to throw you guys off your game offensively.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, they did, just going over a few of their offseason acquisitions. I don't know how much of a role this guy is going to have at this stage of his career. He was kind of outed in Dallas, even though I liked him a lot heading into that, or at least when he signed in Dallas, I was high on the acquisition, and that's JaVale McGee. I mean, I think he's 35, 36 years old. He's up there in his career. I don't know what kind of a role he'll have at this stage of his career. They also have Alex Len in the front court. They can kind of go Sabonis at the 5 if they want to. They could go maybe Trey Lyles as like a small ball 5. I don't know like what their plan is there in that rotation, but they did sign JaVale late in the offseason. They did draft Kobe Jones, who I liked a lot in college. And he can be like kind of like a two-way wing that can be the 8th or 9th man in the rotation from really day one. I mean, they do have plenty of guys. Like they signed a guy to a multi-year deal, Sasha Veskinov, I think that's how you say his name. I apologize if I mispronunciate that. But he's coming off a EuroLeague MVP. He was originally drafted, I think, by the Clippers like in 2017, but he stayed in Europe and he signed a 3-year deal for about $20 million this offseason. So he could be a guy who can maybe provide some. I'm not super sure of his skill set yet, but I know he is like a good shooter. He may be able to provide something on the defensive end just because of his size, but I'm not completely sold on that. But I think you're on it with Keegan Murray. Kevin Huerter wasn't terrible defensively last year, but he's still not great. He's more of like an average defender. Harrison Barnes is another year older in his career. I don't know what he can provide much on the defensive end. And so, yeah, they still are in search for some defense there. I think they like Kessler Edwards is a guy who can, if he even cracks the rotation, could be a guy who you can just throw out there for 5 to 10 minutes and he can provide good defense on a given night. And so they also traded for Chris Duarte, who was kind of out of the rotation last year in Indiana, and they got him for pennies on the dollar, in my opinion.
It's crazy because I remember Duarte was making some noise, I think, like the start of the year before last with the Pacers, and then you just never heard from him again.
I think I lost you for a second.
All right, you got me?
Yeah.
All right. What did you hear?
You were just starting your sentence with Duarte.
Oh my God, it's raining outside, so that connection might be choppy. But I was saying, okay, so about Duarte is that I remember the last time I heard about Chris Duarte was that he was making some noise in Indiana, like in the 2022 season, and then you didn't hear from him again. So I don't know if it was more of a fall off thing, but it seems like since you said like pennies on the dollar, it's mainly just like I have the confidence that Sacramento is going to be another great, like they're going to have another great season offensively. I think De'Aaron Fox is like, he's here to stay, and that dynamic duo with him and Sabonis is going to be what gets them over the hump. And that was the whole point of trading for Sabonis, so they can make the playoffs and start becoming a playoff bound team every year. Do I think it was warranted for trading Tyrese Halliburton? I don't know, but it seems like more of a win-win trade. Right. Now that they've gotten what they want from that trade. So I'm not gonna bash them for it because they signed him long term, so it wasn't like he was gonna go anywhere. So that's like starting to build that core. So but that's like those are like the only two things that I was worried about. But I think that Sacramento is gonna make a big leap into the postseason? Maybe not. I think that may be like pretty much anything. Like taking Golden State Warriors, the defending champions at the time, to 7 games, that's no small feat. Like, and then you had to get a 50 ball, and you guys had to go cold to start off that fourth quarter to sink your season. So I think Sacramento, if they had any different matchup in that postseason, they may have made it to the second round. And when I was talking it over, I think it was either with Jerry or McGinnis. that like I saw Sacramento even making it past the second round. But obviously, like with the postseason basketball and all that stuff, like, and
Yeah.
obviously Golden State, like, was more kind of underestimating them a little bit on that part. But this season, my bold prediction for the Sacramento Kings is that if they can get even a top 15, top 20 defense and still have somewhat of a resemblance of the offensive production they had, even if it takes a small step back, I can see those guys making it past the second round and even making it like, I'm not saying make a run, but I'm saying they can be a team. They can be a very interesting team to make it out of that first round, and pretty much any playoff matchup they have, they have the potential to go to the conference finals. I'll say that
Mm-hmm.
if they can up that defense, that's my bold prediction for them.
One guy I didn't mention defensively because he's probably their best defender, if not one of their best defenders. He's a guy with the best nickname in the league, Davion Off Night Mitchell. Just what a phenomenal nickname. I mean, he's the one who he's the head of the snake at the point of attack.
I can't believe I forgot about that guy. I thought he wasn't on the team anymore, to be completely honest with
you. Cut that out. No, I'm just, no, like, I mean, he does an incredible job, like chasing around screens, sticking to guys off the ball, on the ball. He hardly gets beat. That was kind of his pedigree coming out of Baylor. And he's slowly developed his offensive game too, as kind of like a spot up shooter. Not a great playmaker yet, but I think he's making progress in that department.
How tall is he? Is he kind of undersized?
I think he's like,
like
6'2", 6'3". Let me look.
Okay.
That's a guess though.
Yeah.
He might be bigger or smaller. Let's see what Basketball Reference says. Basketball Reference says 6'2".
Okay.
The unofficial height 6'2". But yeah, no, like I don't hate your prediction, but like one thing I did want to bring up, and I know a lot of people have been bringing it up this offseason, is their injury luck. This team had the second fewest games lost to injury last year, only behind Boston with 109 games. And I mean, not to say like I'm not trying to predict injuries. I don't think I don't want anyone to get hurt, obviously, but like when you just look at that statistic by itself, they're probably due for some injury regression. And I hope it's like, obviously, I don't hope anybody gets injured, especially like no one like of significant importance for their team.
Yeah.
But that is one of like, with how deep the West is, in addition to injury luck, they might suffer some regression in that department. So like, I don't know if they win 48 games again. And the fact that even if they win 44, I think they're over under is like 43.5, 44.5. Like it's right around that territory. And like, I wouldn't blame anyone for saying they get around that mark this year, even though they are practically bringing back the same team. I mean, outside of like, again, they signed JaVale, they drafted Colby Jones, they signed Veskinov. They also traded Rashawn Holmes, who was just practically out of the rotation last year. They restructured some, but like they didn't make any like huge additions outside of maybe Duarte, outside of Colby Jones, but and Veskinov, but like they still might suffer some win regression. That's like 3, 4, 5 wins just based on that by itself.
Might
like,
just be
who knows where they fall in the West if that's the case, you know?
Yeah,
who knows if they go from 3 to 6 or 3 to 7, like whatever the case is. Like they might be a playing team this year. I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's so much room for variance.
I wouldn't even put it past them, to be honest, because that can be the floor for them, because I think that those guys are still would be playoff bound. But also, we can't ignore the fact that other teams either got better or like you just can't ignore certain teams like the Lakers. They got better and they got a lot of the like key contributors than being the oldest team in the NBA a few years ago, which is dumb as shit. But you got, and even those hungry teams like OKC, like those guys, I feel like those guys are going to be able to make the postseason, especially with like Holmgren and those guys coming back. And then you got like even Portland might be that hungry team, like because they have good pieces off of the Dame trade, and like I feel like just the West is going to seem a lot more competitive, you know? So like even I feel like there's not going to be any like easy wins for them, but pretty much my main point is like Sacramento may regress just because other teams got better.
Right. And it's like one of those things where it's like there's not as many easy wins, or not to say that any win is easy. Winning is in any league, any professional sports league is hard, no matter who you're going up against. But like it just becomes more difficult to win some of those games. And like you mentioned some of those teams. I mean, check out our other previews on vendettasportsmedia.com as well as our YouTube page. We'll have them all there by the season start. But the team that I planted my flag on for improving in the West is Houston. I'm suckered in. I'm all in on what they've done. But like that just goes to your point. Like it's just going to be more competitive this season.
It makes it more fun basketball for us to watch.
Right. But before we close this out, what is your official prediction for this team? I want to get like record. I mean, I know you mentioned like playoff. Like where are you at with them? Like heading into the season?
Sacramento. I know a lot of people have looked at De'Aaron Fox as a dark horse MVP candidate. I don't personally. I think he's still a great player, but I will say that I'll say this. This is just to put it in short. If the Sacramento Kings can be if they can find a way to be a top 15 defense, those guys will make it at least to the second round of the playoffs this year. That's just the biggest thing. It's like I said earlier, you can only put up so many points, but like you can always try to outscore guys. But when the scoring isn't there and you guys can't get stops, that's just going to be there's just a painful road you would have to go down. And they've seen that in the postseason with Steph Curry last year in just Game 7. But that's my prediction. Improve the defense. You guys will make it pretty far in the playoffs.
And that's somewhat, as we've kind of illuminated too, that's kind of somewhat of a big if they can get to a league average defense while not suffering much offensive regression. But this, I mean, I just from like a personal standpoint, I love watching their offense. They're just a lot of fun how they go up tempo. And Mike Brown did a very good job with them last year in his first year. I think they're going to be around. I don't have like an official prediction, but like my unofficial prediction is 42-40.
42-40. I can see that.
And I think they're going to be I think they're going to be around like that 6 or 7 spot.
Yeah. So you think just kind of like just real regret, because what they finished like second or third in the West.
They finished third, 48-34.
Okay. All right. No, I definitely see that.
6 games is tough. 6 games is tough, but like there's also plenty of other questions around the West too, as much as the depth they have. Like, are the Clippers going to be healthy?
Yeah, I'll give them like 44. I'll give them 44.
I don't know. It's tough they're one of the tougher teams for me to project, if I'm being completely honest with you.
I mean, hey, it's a new team on the rise.
Yeah. But thank you for all who watched this video. Like and subscribe. Please go check out all of our other season previews on vendettasportsmedia.com, as well as our other previews on the YouTube page. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell me why I'm dumb. I'm smart. I don't care. Thank y'all for watching. See y'all next time.